All right, Shalom Akim. I would like to start off by giving our honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kodash. I also want to give double honor to our apostles, the great millstone, Ruel, and peace and blessings to the house of David the elect. I was a high spirit. We're in Judah at the GMS Mississippi camp. And today I want to go into, basically not being offended in Yahweh Shai. All right? Because in this truth, your ego, or whatever you want to call it, your pride is going to get attacked. All right? We lived in a society that allowed us to linger on in our own devices, our own mindset, without being subjected to guidelines, to rules, to laws that were contrary to our natural inclination. Okay? Then we came into this knowledge and we repented. But we still have dross within our souls. We still have character flaws which exist as a result of going 20, 25, 30, 35 years of living in the flesh. And to live in the flesh doesn't only mean to, go off your libido or go off anger. No, live in the flesh just means also going off your own way of doing things. You are doing what thou wilt. And you in your mind, whether you admitted it or verbalized it, in your mind, your ways and your thought process was the Most High. You were a God in your own world. All right. So your mindset and the way you thought ruled everything around you. So your God was really your thought process and what you believe was right. Right. And then you came into this truth as a child and you were born again as a child. And that's why it says that if a man think himself to be something, let him become a fool, roughly paraphrasing. Or like it says in Matthew, that you have to be born again. When you are born again, you know that you have to be put in a position of being taught by someone else. And a lot of men could not come into Great Millstone or come into this knowledge because they don't want to be taught by other men. All right. They don't want to admit that they learned this truth from men like the Elder Apostle Tahar, Elder Apostle Gabar, Elder Apostle Ariam Lab, okay, Elder Apostle Rakah. They don't want to admit that other men taught them. And really, to be honest, they don't want to admit that so-called Negroes and Hispanics taught them. It's something about this captivity that led Jake to not respect Jake to be in authoritative position. All right. But, that's outside the point. What I want to get into is, all right, when you come into this truth, you will be offended. But you have to ask yourself, is it true? All right. If you hear a brother speaking at camp and you feel that he's saying something that applies to your life and it offends you or it cuts you, do you speculate? Do you linger in your mind and you speculate to see if he was talking about you? Or you ask yourself, well, is it true? If you find yourself in the middle of a reproof or a correction or a counsel and brothers are saying things about you, all right, do you allow yourself to just feel attacked? Or do you ask yourself, what they're saying true? And that's how you become a man. That's part of becoming a man. This is, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to go to Matthew chapter 11, verse 6. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. And offend goes back to the elements to strike. Like you have a sport called fencing. And they have their, I don't know the correct word, but it's like swords that bend, but it's like fencing. And then what they're doing, they're attempting to strike at each other. All right. So to offend literally means to strike. So when someone says something that offends you, that's like offense. So you have offense, and that's where you get offend from. In sports, you have offense and defense. You said someone who is in the The offending position is someone who's in a defending position. All right. And if you get defensive, that's where you get the word defend from. All right. So if you feel defensive, that means you were struck. And if you were struck, then you feel defensive. What happens? You defend. You defend. If you feel defensive, you defend. Meaning that you guard yourself from those offenses. So if reproof or correction offends you, the token or the proof that it offends you is that you become defensive. If you feel struck or offended, which is where you get offended from, to strike, what happens as a natural reaction? You defend yourself. All right. I'm going to read this again. Matthew 11:6. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. Okay. Now, I only had 2 scriptures in my mind before I did this lesson. Okay. But when it says offended in me, it tells you what? Also in Matthew, that out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, it also tells you that where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, that's where I am. Okay. So if you find yourself at camp and a brother is teaching, or you're watching a video and an elder or a brother is saying something that applies to your life, or you watching a video and a brother is saying something that applies to your life, and you feel that he's talking about you, all right, you have to ask yourself, does this apply to me? Is this true? If you get directly reproved or corrected, you have to ask yourself, despite how I feel, my defensive nature, is what they saying true? Or what this person is saying true? And if it's true, take the correction, grow, and move on. Okay? Because only if you feel offended will you become defensive. And that's the very proof that you are offended. Okay? So you can't have the mentality of how dare you, or that natural reaction that you had from the world, because you're not used to people telling you about yourself. All right. Even your woman, we have this mindset, the woman is a demon, and she is an opposition, and she can be a demon. But even your woman or your offspring, they could tell you something that's true about yourself. But the reason why it's so hard, because you have you could have a conception about yourself that's really bigger than what it is. All right. You could perceive yourself to be bigger than what you really are. So you have to play into this role that, that's not really supposed to happen to me. I check myself. All right. Romans chapter 2, verse 11. For there is no respect of persons with the Most High. For there is no respect of persons with the Most High. So, like I myself, I could be corrected. Anybody could be corrected. Or if I watch a video and I hear something that struck me, all right, there goes the word struck, which is where you get the word offend from. Offend goes back to what? To strike. You feel offended, you feel struck. Don't go off your ego. Your ego is designed to defend itself. So don't get offensive and become defensive. You can only become defensive if you were struck. All right. But that's why it says in Matthew 11:6, blessed is he who was not offended in me. OK, because, we're brotherly, but we're brotherly in the doctrine. We're elders, but we're elders in the doctrine. All right. So but we as men, we all fall short of the standard that's given to us by Yahweh Shema Shai. So you're naturally going to deviate from some elements of this truth in your life. And that's the other part of the brotherhood, man. That's the other element of the brotherhood, man, to keep you rectified in the spirit. All right. But with that, I hope your brothers were edified. Till the next time, shalom.